All right, let's move now to the White House, which is facing more questions over President Trump's relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released some new emails from Epstein that mention Trump by name, including one that says, quote, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. There were also 20,000 other documents that were released. We should note that the president has regularly denied any wrongdoing. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is joining me now with more on this. So, Nancy, I watched the press conference yesterday. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, pushed back on what the Epstein emails actually mean. What else did she say?
Well, Vlad, she said something she has never said before, something President Trump has never said before. She said that the reason that President Trump ended his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein back in the late 2000s was because he was a pedophile. That is something that President Trump has never said. He has said that he thought that Epstein was a creep. He said that he was hiring young female employees away from him at Mar-a-Lago. He didn't like that. But now the White House press secretary going a step further to say that President Trump ended their friendship because he knew that Epstein was, in fact, a child sex offender. So that is a new piece of information. Beyond that, though, she argued that these emails don't show anything new about President Trump. And despite the fact that he is mentioned by numerous people, including Epstein himself, in these emails, she argued there is no evidence that President Trump ever did anything wrong. Take a listen.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. Ms. Guthrie maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
That last comment references an email that was highlighted by House Democrats in which Epstein said to his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, that Trump had spent hours in the presence of a victim. Vlad?
Wow. All right. Nancy, we've also seen several Republicans split with the White House when it comes to these Epstein files. How is the president navigating all that?
He is saying that Republicans would be dumb to go along with House Democrats on this issue of getting the Epstein files released. And we know that White House officials have worked behind the scenes to try to convince a handful of House Republicans not to put their names to this petition that requires 218 signatures to force a vote in the House. That vote is going to go forward. It sounds like it's going to happen next week. And then the question will be, will more House Republicans who didn't sign on to this petition but now are faced with an up or down vote, will they vote yes to have those files released despite the president's wishes, knowing that so many of their conservative constituents back home have been arguing from the beginning that they would like to see these files all released and made public?
Wow. All right. Nancy Cordes reporting from the White House for us this morning. Nancy, thank you very much. I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson to talk more about these documents. So, Jessica, legally speaking, I know it's great for the media, and I know there's perhaps some salacious moments that are chronicled in these emails, but is there anything actionable? Is there anything in there that some prosecutor could say that this is problematic?
I think that's unlikely. One, because we're talking about statements that have evidentiary issues. They're out-of-court statements made by somebody who's deceased. You would have to get them into a courtroom. And then based on what we've seen alone, as you said, they're salacious, they're interesting, but I don't see anything here alone that would give rise to criminal or civil liability. In terms of legal repercussions, what would you need? You would need to use this as a starting point to investigation. Maybe if you were bringing a civil case, you could bring this to say, look, there's more there. We want more of these emails. It could help my case. But standing alone at this point, this is a political story on their own. Again, nothing in here would be enough for a criminal statute or civil liability, even if you could get past the evidentiary questions.
Right. So ultimately, while, as we said, salacious, there is no smoking gun, at least as far as the stuff that's come out over the course of not just this batch, but anything that's also been released to the public.
Well, and of course, we have to remember that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted. So the people who are most directly implicated, we've already brought convictions. We've already gotten convictions. With respect to other people, I think that there's some information people knew, people did things that were maybe questionable, unsavory, but you need more than that for criminal liability. I'm not saying anything here morally was fine or not at all problematic, or that it was problematic. I'm saying in terms of civil liability or criminal liability, we're not there based on everything we've seen so far.
Yeah, that's sort of where it feels like to me as well. Jessica Levinson, always great to have you. Thank you very much.